And the town of Canton is celebrating the birthday of one of its oldest residents this afternoon. Frank White is turning 105 years old. And the town historical collection is throwing him a birthday party open house from 4 to 6. White is a veteran, a skilled model boat builder, and the founding florist of White's Flowers. He loves the water and paddled in the very first Rushton canoe race in 1962. White grew up 6 miles outside of Canton on his family's farm in the hamlet of Pirates when it was still a bustling paper mill town. He witnessed the closure of the mill and the onset of the Great Depression. Amy Feiereisel interviewed him about his childhood in Pirates 5 years ago, just before his 100th birthday. Here's part of that story.
Frank was the oldest of 8 kids. His uncle Harry worked for the mill, the DeGrasse River Paper Company, as a pipe fitter for the maintenance department.
It's always something that's breaking down or has to be replaced, and that was his job.
Uncle Harry worked the 4 to 11 shift. The paper mill ran 24/7 and lived in a company duplex. It was just one of the company housing options, including the Beehive, a low-rent apartment complex that housed immigrant families. They'd flocked there starting in 1904 when the mill opened. As a child, Frank spent a lot of time with those families. The kids were his classmates at the Pirates School.
Italian, Polish, French Canadian, Hungarians took care of me like I was taking care of at home.
Frank says he never went inside the mill while it was running, but that it was a big part of his life.
Walked by it every day. First thing you saw was the finishing room, railroad tracks.
The train tracks that led from Pirates to Canton ran right along the White Farm property line, and Frank says he often jumped on board to hitch a ride home. The bus was another way to get to Pirates, and Canton residents crowded it on the weekends for dancing, nightlife, and booze. Frank was 2 years old when Prohibition began. According to him and Canton town historian Linda Casserly, Pirates became a hotbed for bootlegging. Frank describes Pirates as having a sort of circle around it.
No law went beyond that circle.
That was a problem for Frank's family because their home was right on the edge of it.
Down around the corner, there was a road that went off to Herman and to Pirates. And they ever so often somebody'd be out there in our driveway waving everybody down and say, hey, they're checking cars down here. You got anything on? Bang, they'd turn around and they were gone.
Pirates had a bit of a wild reputation up until the plant's abrupt closure in 1930 by the International Paper Company, which had bought the mill in 1927. International Paper had decided transporting paper from northern New York downstate was too expensive.
There were 7 paper mills that was closed around the North Country. And they consolidated the paper making down to Corinth or Palmer. And that's where the great many of the employees of this paper mill went.
Frank is referring to the Palmer Falls paper plant in Corinth, not far from Saratoga Springs. His uncle Harry ended up moving there, but there weren't nearly enough jobs for everyone. It was a hard blow, especially after the stock market crash of 1929. Almost overnight, Pirates emptied out.
I'd say 75% of the students I went to school with moved away. They followed the trade. What was there left up here for them to do?
Frank says nearly all the first-generation families moved out, and the folks that stayed were farmers, Irish immigrants, and local families who'd been there before the mill ever opened.
There was nothing left. All the stores closed. The hotel got torn down. No reason for a bar room. There was no reason for a ball team.
The machinery in the mill was eventually junked for scrap metal, and most of the company housing was moved or taken apart. The sudden loss of the mill and its workers, the Depression, it was grim in the early 1930s. Frank says his family was really lucky to be farmers.
We sold milk, nickel a quart. That was double the money we were getting at the plant.
White says the family farm and selling milk is what got his family through many hard, lean years. As an adult, White served in the Army during World War II, then graduated from SUNY Canton when it was an agricultural school. He started his own florist business on Minor Street, which is still in operation today. The Canton Historical Collection will be celebrating White's life at an open house from 4 to 6 this afternoon.